Hello, everyone. My name is John Fallon. Today I'm going to be talking about healthcare in the U.S. How much is good healthcare worth to you? Is it worth $8,233 per year? Because that's how much the U.S. spends per person, and that's from Jason Kane from PBS. Healthcare costs in the United States, one of the most developed nations on the entire planet, are more than 2.5 times than most other developed nations. Assuming most of you are currently living in the U.S. or are planning on being here for the foreseeable future, and possibly looking at and possibly starting real careers here with legitimate healthcare benefits, it's important to be knowledgeable of the current arena of healthcare and also where it might be down the road. This could help you make much more informed decisions when you're picking out your own healthcare plans for yourself, or if you have a family. Just being aware of how things are right now and where they could end up could help you make much more responsible decisions. So I'm going to talk about three things mainly. I'm going to talk about the United States, how much they spend on healthcare and what their results are, and I'm going to compare that to Switzerland and the Netherlands. And I'm also going to talk specifically, or at least a little bit more specifically, about the U.S. economically with respect to their healthcare results. So, first off, Switzerland is ranked second in the world for healthcare. They spent 11.4% of their GDP on healthcare, and they spent $1,945 per person, yet had much better results in their patient outcomes. So compare that to $8,233 per year in the United States, which is more than 4 times more, yet they had better results. The Netherlands is ranked first in the world, and they spent 12% of their GDP on healthcare, while the U.S. spent 17.4% of their GDP on healthcare. Yet it's the same thing with Switzerland with the Netherlands as it was with Switzerland. They had much better patient outcomes, and that's according to specific surveys from both nurses and physicians. There's a few reasons for that. First off, the Netherlands requires all residents to purchase statutory health insurance from private insurers. This being said, 78% of health coverage in the Netherlands was from privatized companies. So they were able to do that essentially because of capitalism. The competing insurance companies, it drives their prices down as they try to hold on to clients. So they drop their prices, as opposed to the United States where everything's regulated. Basically, healthcare policies in the United States come out of vending machines. They are all the same. The only thing that changes is maybe the service that comes along with it. So there's just no competition. It's just a flat rate everywhere. That's a huge difference. But here's something that's kind of mind-boggling to me. The United States was ranked 11th overall in economic performance, and they were ranked 37th in healthcare. Now, they were right below Costa Rica and right above Slovenia. And Costa Rica is ranked 50th in overall economic performance, and Slovenia was ranked 91st, and we are ranked 11th. Yeah, when it comes to healthcare, we're right in between those two. So things are, for all intents and purposes, they really couldn't get much worse, and hopefully they don't. But just to give you some more specific stats on the United States, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, U.S. had 2.4 physicians per 1,000 people, and the average for OECD countries and/or Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development was 3.1. The number of hospital beds was 2.6 per 1,000 people, compared to the average of 3.4. Life expectancy at birth increased by 9 years, compared to the average of 11. And lastly, the average American lives to age 78.7, and the OECD average is 79.8. Okay, now there's 34 countries in the OECD. So the United States is ranked pretty high economically and very low in healthcare, and that it just should not be that way. So hopefully we do what those countries have done, which is privatize portions of it, perhaps not all of it, but portions of it. I think that could be kind of a painful transition, but in the long run, it would really improve things here. Sorry, that's a little off track. But there's the last few points here. There's a couple more up-to-date current reasons why the United States isn't performing as well in healthcare outside of privatized insurance. And for starters, the United States hasn't adopted something called physician-assisted death. So I know it's a moral topic. That's an extremely moral topic. But Switzerland adopted this practice in 1940. And the Netherlands adopted this practice in 2002. And the main reason people do this is so they can essentially hold on to their dignity as they pass away, so they can say goodbye to their loved ones before they basically, lose the ability to communicate and things like that. And on the other side, the more superficial side, it drastically reduces costs for the elderly. And the United States does not have that option. So, taking care of our elderly is a huge concern in the United States. And I realize it's a huge moral dilemma, but these countries who are leading in healthcare have it as an option. Okay. Now, I also want to give you some context as to how, or give you a better idea as to how out of whack, essentially, healthcare is in the United States. You all know what this is. Okay, this is a 200 milligram ibuprofen. If you buy it from the pharmacy, it costs about a cent. But if you're in the hospital, okay, it costs $8 for 2 of these. Okay, which is insane. Now, one reason the the reason that the hospital has them so expensive is because the hospital is taking care of everybody, regardless of how much they're paying or if they're paying at all for health insurance. Now it's offset to be $8, which is about 8,000%, 80,000% difference. Okay, 80,000% increase from buying this in the pharmacy to when you try to purchase it, or when the hospital covers it. And that's because taxpayers are covering everybody, so they have to jack the prices up of something like this to balance out giving this to people who are paying nothing for it. All right, and that's in a nutshell why the healthcare system in the United States is having problems. And privatized health insurance, not all of it, some of it should still come out of taxes, as it does in Switzerland. But doing that would dramatically offset the cost per person. Now, Switzerland has managed to privatize some of it, not as much as the Netherlands, yet they still take care of people who can't afford it, and they take care of the things that are, dire circumstances, things that have to be covered, but not given a portion of it is privatized. It's much less coming from taxpayers, from tax dollars. So that about wraps it up for me. My very last point, is that this is against a little bit political, and I think Trump has already mentioned that he will be, privatizing healthcare. So that's that. Hopefully, that's a good thing. I think, like I said, it could be a very painful transition, but I think in the long run, if we at least just try to mimic what the best countries are doing, we should be okay. And the economics are the same, even though they're smaller countries. When you're over a few million people, 3 million as opposed to 318 million, the economics do not change. Okay, so privatizing it should have a much similar effect, here as it does in the two leading nations in healthcare. So that's it for me. Again, sorry for giving this speech in my car. I hope it was informative, and hope it wasn't too long. Alrighty, thank you.